Despite our pretty horrendous weather here in the UK, thousands of people each year grab the keys to a convertible car as a way to grab some of that wind in your hair feeling on even the dreariest of drives. Because of this, manufacturers offer loads of different types of convertibles at the moment, and today we're checking out three very different drop tops. First off, we've got the Mazda MX-5, which continues to be one of the great lightweight two-seaters on the market. There are also loads of used examples, so if you're looking to save money, then this could be a great option. On my left, we also have the Volkswagen T-Roc Cabriolet, a slightly quirky option as it's one of the very few convertible SUVs available, but it's also got some really comfort-focused features inside and loads of great new tech. And finally, we've got the big hulking V8 powered Mustang, which brings a healthy dose of Americana to this market and also adds in some great character thanks to that momentous V8 engine in the nose. So today we're going to see what each of these cars offer and whether you should be checking it out if you are looking to purchase a new convertible. The Mustang convertible has all of the great styling features of the regular coupe version, but of course it's got a cloth folding roof which takes around 8 seconds to operate. Elsewhere, this California Series model has some really neat touches like the D-badged grille, bonnet nostrils, and a range of cool decals that help to make it, well, a little bit more eye-catching than the Mustang already is. Against the cars that we've got collected with us today, the MX-5 and the T-Roc, the Mustang takes a completely different attack onto the typical convertible style. It's definitely a muscle car, and if you're into Americana, then there's only going to be one car to pick out of this three, and it's going to be this one. Against the T-Roc and the Mustang, the MX-5 is impressively small, but it still looks really sharp, even despite being sold in this guise for a number of years now. We also like the fact that this car has a really striking exterior paint colour, but pretty much any shade that you apply to the MX-5 looks good. This car also has some neat little touches like these titanium coloured wheels and the black accents, which help to add some character to the MX-5's overall design. The T-Roc Cabriolet definitely takes a different turn on the traditional convertible design compared particularly with the Mustang and the MX-5. It's way more upright because of that SUV format, but it still retains a folding fabric roof which is really easy to operate via a button located handily inside. There's a bit of a mixture going on inside the Mustang's cabin. We've got some, well, quite harsh plastics actually, which do bring the overall feeling down of the cabin. And I like the toggle switches here which allow you to easily access different driver functions, but overall I'd just like to see the materials improved ever so slightly, which would help the car feel even more special than, well, in fairness, it already does. This car can only really be considered as an occasional use four-seater as the rear seats are really small, particularly when you've got a taller driver sitting ahead of them. There's no space for people's legs behind whatsoever. But there is a 320 litre boot, which makes it the most practical out of all the cars that we've gathered here today. And that means that you are able to fit up plenty of luggage, even though there might not actually be enough room for the people who want to bring it along with them. As a relatively compact car, the MX-5 can't offer an awful lot of space, and against cars like the T-Roc and the Mustang, it definitely feels a lot smaller, but then it's a smaller car overall. However, you do have some nice chunky controls for the heating and ventilation, and I think they're great, particularly if you're going to drive this car through winter, where you'll be able to wear gloves and still operate them properly. There's still a central screen, and though a little bit on the small side, it still gets Apple CarPlay, so you can easily recreate your phone screen on the display there. The only problem is it's a little bit flat, so when you're driving, it can feel a little bit tricky to see and operate properly. When it comes to the roof, it's entirely mechanical, so you don't need to worry about any kind of electrical assistance. You simply unlock it here, put it away, and do the reverse when you want to put it back up again and lock it in place. It's dead simple, and also means that there's far less to go wrong than compared with an electronically operated roof. When it comes to boot space, well, as you might expect, the MX-5 doesn't offer a lot. There's 130 litres, but then the boot is quite deep and it's easy to access, so you'll be able to get some weekend bags in there, or at least a decent amount of shopping. It's a little bit more practical than you might expect, but it still can't match the T-Roc or the Mustang for outright boot space. You'll find the same great interior in the Volkswagen T-Roc Cabriolet that you'd get in the regular SUV model, which means it's got a great build quality and loads of nice materials. We've got some good technology too, and although this screen might not be the largest that we've seen lately from other models, It's more than large enough for displaying everything correctly, and you also get smartphone integration systems, so you can connect your phone and easily get those features up there. Rear seat space actually is pretty decent, and in fact is pretty much unaltered against the standard T-Roc. There's more than enough room for taller passengers to get comfy back there, and of course when the roof's down there's loads of headroom, but when the roof is in place you might find it a little bit tighter for taller passengers. Boot space stands at a very respectable 284 litres, and that's the same regardless of whether you've got the roof raised or lowered. So the Mustang, a true American icon here in the UK. How does it translate and does it fit? Well, physically, yes, it does fit, just about. It's quite a big car, and certainly one that you have to get used to driving because of its, well, it's quite square and long proportions. But once you're up to speed with it, it's a car that is quite exciting to drive. We've got a huge 5-litre V8 engine up front with 444 brake horsepower being sent to the rear wheels alone through, in this car, a 10-speed automatic, and that makes it the most powerful car out of the 3 models that we're looking at today. It might not have the overall feedback that you get from the MX-5, and actually that's something that the MX-5 does incredibly well. But it counters with this whole experience that stems directly from that engine, because there are very few other powertrains like it available at the moment in the UK. I just wish that the 10-speed automatic gearbox maybe had a few of those gears lopped off it, because it does feel a little bit confused by how many ratios it has to go at. Sometimes when you're looking for a gap in traffic or you're just trying to perform an overtake, it can be a little bit dim-witted and just struggle to choose which gear you actually need. So I think though a 10-speed gearbox sounds very exciting, I think a 7 or a 6 would actually suit the Mustang way better. You are going to be looking at quite high running costs compared to the other cars that we've got here. Ford claims that you should be able to see around 24 mpg combined, but I think actually during daily driving that's probably going to be more around 20, or even underneath during more spirited driving. So you are going to be spending quite a lot of time filling the Mustang up. However, you must kind of accept that when you're looking at a car like this. It's a 5-litre naturally aspirated muscle car. It's not going to be great on fuel. But as an overall driving experience and as a convertible, I think it works very nicely. And also the refinement in here and the lack of wind blowing is really good, and it means that you can actually drive for a long time with the roof down without getting tired. So we're in the ever popular MX-5, a car that has been driven by thousands of people over the years throughout the UK and across many different generations. But how does this latest one stack up, particularly in the company of cars like the Mustang and the T-Roc? Well, obviously this is the most compact car of the 3, so it feels ideally suited to small country lanes in the UK. You've got loads of room within the lane itself, and it feels like a very pleasant car to thread through corners and also actually through traffic if you need to. This version uses a 2-litre naturally aspirated petrol engine with 181 brake horsepower, and though you can get it with a smaller 1.5-litre version, I'd always just go for the bigger one because it provides a bit more urgency to the throttle and makes the whole car feel just a little bit more exciting. You should still be able to return around 40 mpg combined, according to Mazda. And the MX-5 also has a great reputation for reliability and low running costs. So if you're looking for a car that isn't going to sting you with a massive bill every 6 months, then this is probably a great one to go for. Being rear driven, it definitely has more of an enthusiast focus, but it's got some great balance through the corners, and you can generate grip quite easily just by carrying speed and being nice and smooth with your throttle and brake applications. Certainly it's not going to be a car that you'd probably drive throughout winter, and because it's only got 2 seats, it's not a car that you'll be able to bring everyone along for the ride with. But because of the feedback that you get through the steering wheel, and because of the great judged suspension, this is a car that feels quite exciting to drive whenever you hop behind the wheel. It's also worth mentioning that the 6-speed gearbox that you get in the MX-5 is one of the best in the business, and it's a real joy to use. So if manual gearboxes are what you're after from your next convertible, then this is a car well worth looking at. Plus, the compact roof that you fold over manually when it's sealed shut is pretty quiet. But if you wanted slightly more refinement, then it's worth checking out the RF version, as that replaces the cloth folding roof for a metal one. Of course it adds some weight, but you get the same balance and enjoyment that you'd get in this fabric version, but with the added benefit of a retractable metal closing roof. Against the MX-5 and the Mustang, the T-Roc Cabriolet, takes a completely different angle on the convertible setup. This is a high-riding SUV with space for four that also happens to have its roof entirely removed. And actually, I really like it. It's an honest car. It's not trying to be anything that it isn't. It's comfortable, it's relatively supple through the bends, and though you could argue it's a little bit wallowy, this is an affliction that affects so many convertibles, and the T-Roc just kind of leans into it. It knows it isn't a sports car designed to set lap times. It's a model that's meant to be fun and enjoyed and be comfortable for all four people in the cabin, and that's why I quite like it. This particular car has a 1.5 litre petrol engine, and though you can get it with smaller capacity setups, I'd say that this feels, with 148 brake horsepower, just enough punch for this size and weight of vehicle. It's also nicely refined, and the wind is kept from entering and blowing around the cabin too much, despite the fact that there's no optional diffuser at the back. The large windows and the high shoulder line mean that you're sitting in the car, and that makes sure that the wind tends to go over it or around it rather than in it and through it. You can quite easily have a conversation here without too much trouble. You don't have to shout over the breeze. And also that means you can be able to play music at a normal level and still really enjoy it. I just think that the T-Roc is nice and honest, and it knows what it is. And that's something that is quite refreshing in this day and age. It's also in a segment of one. Now that the Range Rover Evoque convertible has bitten the dust, the T-Roc has the area all to itself. And I think that long-standing nature is something to be celebrated, particularly now as the T-Roc Cabriolet has been refined and revised for the second generation. It shows that people still like this type of car, and I'm one of those people. I think what today's comparison test shows is the great variety of options that you have in the convertible market. I do think the MX-5 continues to be a great option, and there are loads of used examples out there. The lightweight nature of this car means that it does feel exciting to drive, but I do think the tech inside leaves a little bit to desired, but there's still enough to get by on a day-to-day basis. The T-Roc Cabriolet continues to surprise me because it's a very honest car. It knows what it is. It's not there to set lap times, it's there to be fun and to be comfortable and practical, and it does all of those things really nicely. And the Mustang, well, the Mustang is a nice little capture of yesteryear. It's a design that we're not going to see on our roads for too much longer, and though the running costs are going to be high, and if you do get the keys to a Mustang, it's more than likely that you're going to have a smile on your face each time you get behind the wheel. Which one would I pick? Well, it's actually quite surprising, but I'd probably go for the T-Roc. I do really enjoy this car, and I think that as a convertible, it nails the brief pretty expertly. Thanks for watching this motors.co.uk comparison test of the Mazda MX-5, the Volkswagen T-Roc Cabriolet, and the Ford Mustang Convertible. Let us know in the comments section which of these three cars you'd like the keys to, or tell us which option you'd like elsewhere. Leave us a like if you have enjoyed this video, and if you'd like to get notifications on when we upload our new videos, subscribe to the motors.co.uk YouTube channel and just hit that bell icon.